Don't seek in the world what lies within you. This first teaching from Buddha reminds us that often, in the endless search for happiness, success, or fulfillment, we look outside ourselves, trying to find in material goods, external achievements, or validation from others what actually already resides within us. Buddha invites us to turn our gaze inward, to recognize that true peace and contentment come from a calm mind and a heart in harmony with life. In everyday life, this manifests in how we often feel incomplete, believing we will only be happy if we get that promotion, buy a bigger house, or find the ideal partner. This cycle of seeking can be exhausting, as it never really ends. As soon as we achieve one goal, another appears, and another, leaving a constant feeling that something is still missing. Buddha teaches that this lack is an illusion. The fullness we seek is already within us, and it doesn't depend on external circumstances but on a deeper understanding of who we are. By accepting this teaching, we begin to value self-knowledge and the cultivation of our inner peace. Meditation, for example, is one of the most effective ways to connect with this truth. By quieting the mind and focusing on the present, we can realize that many of the anxieties we carry are creations of our own minds, not reflections of reality. Happiness, then, stops being an external goal and becomes an internal practice. This teaching also guides us not to depend on others for our own happiness. Expecting someone to fill our emptiness or solve our problems is to transfer the power of transformation that lies within us to another. When we understand that we are responsible for our own well-being, we free ourselves from emotional dependency and the frustrations that arise when others don't meet our expectations. Furthermore, it invites us to reconsider our beliefs about what success means. Society often teaches us that personal fulfillment is directly linked to status, fame, or wealth. However, by seeking external approval, we may distance ourselves from our deepest values and what truly makes us feel complete. When we turn our gaze inward, we begin to redefine what is truly important to us, and this can be liberating. Buddha's teaching, therefore, is a call to emotional and spiritual self-sufficiency. It challenges us to stop seeking outside what can only be found within, and reminds us that the power to transform our lives lies within ourselves. By accepting this, we find freedom, as we no longer depend on external circumstances to feel fulfilled. A jar fills drop by drop. This teaching from Buddha invites us to reflect on the power of consistency and patience. Just as a jar is filled gradually, drop by drop, our personal achievements and transformations also occur slowly and progressively. It teaches us that often the greatest results come from small, repeated efforts over time. In everyday life, many people become discouraged when they don't see immediate changes, whether in work, relationships, health, or spiritual development. We live in an era that values speed and instant gratification. We want quick results, but reality shows us that most things worth achieving require time, dedication, and patience. This teaching is a reminder that progress is cumulative. Every small step, no matter how insignificant it seems, brings us closer to our goals. Imagine someone who wants to adopt a healthier lifestyle. They might feel discouraged in the first few weeks of exercise or balanced eating, especially if physical results are not immediately visible. However, if they persist, drop by drop, day after day, the transformation will eventually become evident. The same is true for learning a new skill, building a relationship, or developing inner peace. Buddha teaches that the path to change and evolution is not about doing something grand all at once, but rather about being consistent. Every positive habit we cultivate in our daily routine adds up over time, bringing benefits that, in the beginning, may seem invisible but become powerful as time passes. This approach not only helps us achieve our goals but also teaches us to value the process, not just the end result. Additionally, this teaching reminds us not to underestimate small acts of kindness, generosity, and compassion. Each simple gesture of love and care we offer to the world, though it may seem insignificant, is like a drop that contributes to filling the collective jar of goodness. Often, we want to accomplish great deeds, but we forget that the most lasting and profound changes happen through small daily actions. On the spiritual journey, a jar fills drop by drop also reminds us that personal growth doesn't happen suddenly. Enlightenment, wisdom, and inner peace are the fruits of continuous practice. Every moment of meditation, every reflection, and every conscious act brings us closer to this state. The path is long, but every step counts. In conclusion, this teaching invites us to have patience and perseverance. Even when results are not immediate, we must not give up. After all, what seems like insignificant progress at the beginning can, over time, transform into a great achievement. Buddha teaches us that it is in the regularity of our actions and in our commitment to the path that we find true transformation. Before the next teaching, I'd like to ask you to like this video and subscribe to our channel. By adding this drop to our jar, you'll be helping us pour knowledge and teachings so that we can all live lighter, making our passage through life sweeter and more enjoyable. Everything has a purpose, even evil. This teaching from Buddha is profound and often challenging to accept. It invites us to reflect on the nature of life and recognize that even in the most difficult or painful situations, there is an underlying purpose. By stating that even evil has a purpose, Buddha is not suggesting that suffering or evil should be passively accepted, but rather that they can serve as catalysts for learning, growth, and transformation. In everyday life, we all face adversity, whether in the form of loss, disappointment, illness, or relationship difficulties. These painful moments may seem unfair, and we often wonder why we are going through them. Buddha's teaching invites us to look at these experiences from a new perspective. Instead of seeing them solely as negative, we can try to understand what they have to teach us. The idea that everything has a purpose is linked to the understanding of karma and the interdependent nature of reality. Often, the evil or suffering we experience is the result of past actions, whether ours or others, and by facing them, we have the opportunity to redeem our mistakes, transform our behavior patterns, and thus evolve spiritually. This doesn't mean we should seek suffering, but that, when it arises, we can use it as an opportunity for growth. A practical example is someone facing a serious illness. Initially, this person may feel lost and helpless, questioning why this is happening to them. However, by viewing the illness from a broader perspective, they may realize that this experience is offering them the opportunity to value life more, reconnect with important people, and reassess their priorities. Many people report that after overcoming great challenges, they feel stronger and more aware of what truly matters in their lives. Moreover, the teaching that even evil has a purpose reminds us that the duality of good and evil is part of the universe's nature. We cannot experience light without knowing darkness. Suffering teaches us compassion, as by experiencing it, we become more empathetic and able to understand the pain of others. Thus, evil is not something to be perpetuated or encouraged, but when it occurs, it can lead us to a deeper understanding of life and its nuances. Another important aspect of this teaching is the development of resilience. By recognizing that even the most difficult situations have a purpose, we can change our attitude toward life's challenges. Instead of feeling like victims of fate or circumstances, we become active agents of our own transformation. Each obstacle, each difficulty, is seen as an opportunity to cultivate patience, strength, and wisdom. Therefore, Buddha's teaching invites us to embrace the totality of the human experience, the good and the bad, the joy and the pain, and see everything as part of a great learning process. He doesn't ask us to accept evil passively, but to seek, in every experience, a deeper meaning that helps us grow and evolve. In this way, evil is no longer seen as a punishment or something meaningless, but as a necessary part of the journey toward enlightenment. Everything has a purpose, even evil. This teaching from Buddha is profound and often challenging to accept. It invites us to reflect on the nature of life and recognize that even in the most difficult or painful situations, there is an underlying purpose. By stating that even evil has a purpose, Buddha is not suggesting that suffering or evil should be passively accepted, but rather that they can serve as catalysts for learning, growth, and transformation. In everyday life, we all face adversity, whether in the form of loss, disappointment, illness, or relationship difficulties. These painful moments may seem unfair, and we often wonder why we are going through them. Buddha's teaching invites us to look at these experiences from a new perspective. Instead of seeing them solely as negative, we can try to understand what they have to teach us. The idea that everything has a purpose is linked to the understanding of karma and the interdependent nature of reality. Often, the evil or suffering we experience is the result of past actions, whether ours or others, and by facing them, we have the opportunity to redeem our mistakes, transform our behavior patterns, and thus evolve spiritually. This doesn't mean we should seek suffering, but that, when it arises, we can use it as an opportunity for growth. A practical example is someone facing a serious illness. Initially, this person may feel lost and helpless, questioning why this is happening to them. However, by viewing the illness from a broader perspective, they may realize that this experience is offering them the opportunity to value life more, reconnect with important people, and reassess their priorities. Many people report that after overcoming great challenges, they feel stronger and more aware of what truly matters in their lives. Moreover, the teaching that even evil has a purpose reminds us that the duality of good and evil is part of the universe's nature. We cannot experience light without knowing darkness. Suffering teaches us compassion, as by experiencing it, we become more empathetic and able to understand the pain of others. Thus, evil is not something to be perpetuated or encouraged, but when it occurs, it can lead us to a deeper understanding of life and its nuances. Another important aspect of this teaching is the development of resilience. By recognizing that even the most difficult situations have a purpose, we can change our attitude toward life's challenges. Instead of feeling like victims of fate or circumstances, we become active agents of our own transformation. Each obstacle, each difficulty, is seen as an opportunity to cultivate patience, strength, and wisdom. Therefore, Buddha's teaching invites us to embrace the totality of the human experience, the good and the bad, the joy and the pain, and see everything as part of a great learning process. He doesn't ask us to accept evil passively, but to seek, in every experience, a deeper meaning that helps us grow and evolve. In this way, evil is no longer seen as a punishment or something meaningless, but as a necessary part of the journey toward enlightenment. You are responsible for your health. This teaching from Buddha carries a message of self-awareness and self-sufficiency. It reminds us that we are primarily responsible for caring for our bodies, minds, and spirits. Often, we tend to delegate this responsibility to others, doctors, therapists, family members, but, at the core, the decision to cultivate a healthy, balanced, and fulfilling life begins and ends with each of us. In modern life, we are constantly bombarded with information about health, diets, and exercise. However, taking care of health goes far beyond following external advice. Buddha teaches that true responsibility for health begins with a deep understanding of ourselves, our habits, our emotional and mental patterns, and how in tune we are with our bodies. When we look at physical health, it's important to recognize that many of the daily choices we make directly affect our well-being. Small decisions like what we eat, how we move, and how we care for our bodies accumulate over time and define our quality of life. Eating mindfully, exercising regularly, and resting adequately are ways to honor the responsibility we have to ourselves. However, Buddha's teaching goes beyond the physical. He invites us to look at mental and emotional health with the same care. Often, we neglect this aspect of our lives, allowing stress, anxiety, and negative thoughts to take control of us. Buddha reminds us that we are as responsible for our own minds as we are for our bodies. This means cultivating healthy thoughts, letting go of harmful emotions, and developing a calm mind through meditation and mindfulness practices. A practical example of this is how we handle stressful situations in our daily lives. Instead of letting stress dominate our lives, we can take responsibility for finding healthy ways to manage it, whether through breathing techniques, moments of pause, or activities that bring us well-being. Many physical ailments have their roots in disordered mental and emotional states, reinforcing the importance of caring for our minds with the same diligence we apply to our bodies. Additionally, Buddha reminds us of the importance of spiritual health. Just as we are responsible for our physical and mental health, we are also responsible for nourishing our spirit. This involves seeking a deep connection with life, whether through spiritual practices, meditation, prayer, or simply living according to values and principles that nurture and elevate us. Spiritual health brings us a sense of purpose and peace, essential for living a balanced and fulfilling life. This teaching also speaks to the importance of taking control of our own journey. When we stop being passive about our health and take the reins, we become more aware of our choices and, consequently, more capable of making significant changes in our lives. This means letting go of the victim role in the face of circumstances and understanding that, in large part, our health, whether physical, mental, or spiritual, is the result of our daily choices. Thus, by taking responsibility for our health, we begin to see ourselves as the main agents of our own well-being. This empowers us and gives us the freedom to shape our lives in a way that is healthier, more balanced, and aligned with who we truly are. Hatred is not conquered by hatred. This teaching from Buddha is a powerful message about the futility of resentment and revenge. It reminds us that hatred is a flame that, when fueled, only grows and consumes everything around it. To break this cycle, Buddha teaches that the response to hatred must be compassion and understanding, not more hatred. This challenges us to adopt a stance of non-retaliation and unconditional love, even in the most difficult situations. In everyday life, we often face situations that provoke feelings of anger or resentment, whether at work, in personal relationships, or even in traffic. The most natural and instinctive reaction may be to retaliate in kind, trying to hurt those who hurt us. However, Buddha's teaching shows us that reacting with hatred only perpetuates the cycle of suffering, both for ourselves and for others. Anger is an emotion that can internally consume us. When we hold on to hatred, we are not only harming others but also ourselves. Our bodies respond to these negative emotions by increasing stress, anxiety, and even impacting our physical health. By choosing to respond to hatred with more hatred, we are, in fact, feeding this destructive cycle. Buddha invites us to break this cycle by responding differently, with compassion and patience. A practical example could be a conflict in the workplace. When someone treats us unfairly or aggressively, our initial instinct might be to respond with harsh words or actions that cause harm. But by reflecting on this teaching, we realize that reacting in this way only contributes to an environment of hostility and tension. Instead, if we choose to respond calmly and with understanding, we may disarm the conflict and, often, inspire the other person to change their behavior as well. This doesn't mean that we should accept injustices or become passive in the face of evil, but rather that we should find higher ways to handle these situations. Buddha does not ask us to be submissive, but to be wise in our responses. By cultivating compassion, we can see beyond the momentary anger and understand that those who hurt us are often suffering themselves. This perspective allows us to forgive and, at the same time, free ourselves from the emotional burden that hatred carries. The practice of meditation and mindfulness can be a great ally in this process. By meditating, we can learn to observe our feelings of anger and hatred without identifying with them. We can allow these feelings to arise and dissolve without acting on them. This gives us the clarity and space needed to choose a more conscious and compassionate response. Another important aspect of this teaching is that it not only applies to the hatred we feel towards others, but also to the hatred we often direct at ourselves. When we make mistakes or fail, it's common to criticize ourselves harshly and, in some cases, develop feelings of self-loathing. Buddha teaches us that this kind of internal hatred also leads nowhere. Healing, both internal and external, comes from compassion, whether directed toward others or ourselves. Finally, the teaching, hatred is not conquered by hatred, is an invitation to cultivate inner peace. By adopting compassion and understanding as our default responses, we contribute to creating a more harmonious world. It is not an easy task, but it is a path to liberation, both for ourselves and others. Rejoice in the victories of others. This teaching from Buddha is a powerful lesson on emotional generosity and the importance of cultivating a heart free of envy. It teaches us to sincerely and joyfully celebrate the success of others, understanding that their triumphs do not diminish our own worth. On the contrary, when we rejoice in the successes of others, we open the door for abundance and happiness to also flourish in our lives. In daily life, it's common to compare ourselves to others and sometimes feel envy or resentment when we see someone achieving something we desire. This can happen at work, in relationships, or any area of life. When someone gets promoted, buys a new house, or finds a loving partner, our first reaction might be to compare, why did they get it and not me? These thoughts, though natural, reveal a mindset of scarcity, where we believe that someone else's success reduces our own chances of success. Buddha teaches us that this mindset is a trap. When we allow ourselves to feel envy or resentment, we are actually distancing ourselves from the peace and joy we want to experience. Envy is an emotion that closes us off from generosity and love. By constantly comparing ourselves, we get stuck in a cycle of dissatisfaction and frustration, unable to appreciate what we have and who we are. Instead, the teaching invites us to shift our perspective. When we genuinely rejoice in others' victories, we cultivate an open mind and a generous heart that naturally attracts more joy and success into our own lives. A practical example of this teaching can be seen in friendships. When a friend or colleague achieves something we desire, like a promotion or a new relationship, it can be easy to feel a pang of jealousy. However, by practicing Buddha's teaching, we can consciously choose to be happy for their success. This practice not only strengthens our relationships but also frees us from the internal tension that comparison and envy cause. Moreover, when we celebrate others' success, we send a powerful message to the universe and to ourselves that there is enough abundance for everyone. Life is not a competition where someone has to lose for another to win. On the contrary, one person's success can open doors and inspire success in many others. For example, in a work team, when someone is recognized for their contribution, it can motivate others to give their best, creating a positive cycle of collective growth. Practicing joy for others' victories also helps us cultivate humility. By recognizing the value and achievements of others, we are, in a way, acknowledging the interconnectedness of life. No one achieves success alone, and by celebrating others' triumphs, we recognize the collective effort behind every accomplishment. This attitude makes us more connected and empathetic with the world around us. Another aspect of this teaching is gratitude. By practicing joy for others' victories, we become more aware of the blessings and opportunities in our own lives. This practice helps us focus on the positive, on what we have, instead of on what we lack. Over time, envy and resentment give way to gratitude and satisfaction, and we begin to experience a lighter, more harmonious life. Finally, the teaching, rejoice in the victories of others, can also be seen as a form of self-awareness. When we find it difficult to celebrate others' success, it may be a sign of insecurities or fears we still carry within us. By recognizing these feelings, we can work on them, using the practice of compassion and detachment to transform our emotions and live more fully and freely. Virtue is in good deeds. This teaching from Buddha reminds us that true virtue does not lie only in intentions but, above all, in the actions we perform in our daily lives. Our attitudes, choices, and behaviors reflect who we truly are, and it is through our good deeds that we cultivate virtuous character and contribute to the well-being of the world around us. Often, we think that being a good person is a matter of having good intentions or thoughts. However, Buddha teaches us that it is necessary to transform these thoughts and intentions into concrete gestures. Virtue is not just an abstract ideal. It manifests in the small and large actions we take every day, whether in our relationships, at work, or in how we treat strangers. It is through these actions that we build a path of kindness, compassion, and justice. In everyday life, this can be reflected in simple gestures like helping someone in need, offering words of encouragement to someone going through a tough time, or even acting ethically and responsibly in our decisions. Good deeds don't need to be grand or spectacular. Often, it is the small acts of kindness that have the greatest impact. A smile, a kind word, or even a moment of patience in a stressful situation can make all the difference. This teaching also invites us to reflect on the importance of altruism. Living according to virtue means acting not only with our own benefit in mind, but also considering the well-being of others. True goodness lies in doing good without expecting anything in return, without seeking recognition or reward. That is what makes an action truly virtuous, when it is done with a pure heart, with a simple desire to contribute to the good of another. A practical example of this can be seen in teamwork. When we help a colleague with a task without expecting anything in return, or when we offer our time to someone in need of support, we are practicing virtue. These actions may seem small, but over time, they build up a positive impact, both in our lives and in the lives of those around us. Furthermore, the teaching, virtue is in good deeds, reminds us of the importance of consistency. Our actions need to align with our values. It's not enough to speak of compassion, respect, and kindness if, in practice, our attitudes contradict these principles. This teaching challenges us to be integrative, to live authentically, and to practice what we preach. When our actions reflect our beliefs and values, we become role models for others, inspiring them to also follow the path of virtue. Another important aspect of this teaching is the impact good deeds have on our own lives. Although virtue is, in essence, aimed at benefiting others, it also brings internal benefits. When we act virtuously, we experience a sense of peace and satisfaction, knowing that we are contributing to something larger than ourselves. Good deeds purify the mind, dissipating negative feelings and connecting us with our true essence. Therefore, Buddha's teaching is a reminder that the path to inner peace and harmony with the world around us is built through our daily actions. Every choice we make has the potential to be an opportunity to practice virtue, whether through small or large gestures. By doing so, we not only improve our own lives but also contribute to a more compassionate and just world. In the end, virtue through good deeds is an invitation for us to become agents of positive change in the world. In a society that often values individual gain and success at any cost, Buddha reminds us that true worth lies in how we treat others and how we contribute to the collective well-being. Through these actions, we find the true meaning of life and move closer to a more enlightened existence. Thank you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and may you have an extremely abundant and blessed day.